you have to knock on them, right? It's traditional to tap on them, and you go, that's not going anywhere, and then it's okay. Now it's safe.
Yeah.
They look lovely, right? That's so beefy.
My name is Matt. Follow along as I turn Duracell, the legendary ocean racing sailboat, into a comfortable cruising home. So we've been working on finishing the chain plates. Last week we glued them to the hull. This week what we're doing is laminating 15 more layers of fiberglass over top of them to make sure that they are firmly attached to the boat. This week we also got a visit from Evan, who is the naval architect who helps design all kinds of pieces and parts on the boat. He obviously had a huge hand in designing the chain plates. And so he's here and he's going to try and convince you that these chain plates are strong enough. He's on the ferry right now, so we're just going to go pick him up, take him back to the house for the weekend. Evan got in touch with us almost a year and a half ago and has been helping with the project ever since. This is the first time that we've ever met in person. That's a good idea, honey. You could be the tugboat master.
Tugboat driver.
I'm gonna be a tugboat master.
Yeah, just
right.
Pushing the bow into the marina, right?
My dream come true.
Wow, nice effort here. This is gonna be a lovely cockpit.
It was super fun to show Evan around the boat and show off the projects that he has had a hand in. Having a professional engineer help with the project means that we can confidently tackle projects that I previously could only dream about implementing into the boat. Having Evan's help means we will finish with a much stronger and better boat.
You can still stand in here, and my elbows can if the boat's heeling, I can have a shower at sea, and I won't fall very far before something I can lean on. This is perfect size, right? Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, and the toilet will be here where when you're heeled you can put your shoulder against one side.
Yeah, 4.5 toilets rock, right? People that put toilets that face inboard. On one side it's good, on the other side you're sort of got your feet up and it's very awkward.
Yep.
So
Between filming and editing and my part-time job restoring wildlife habitat in schools, I don't have much time left to help Matt with the build. But now that it's summer and school's out, I've been helping with the hours of preparation that go into each lamination. Here, I'm cutting fiberglass for the final chain plate lamination.
A couple days ago we got the chain plates glued into the boat on both sides, and so today we're all ready to go and we're starting to do the final lamination on top of the chain plates, so making them totally part of the boat. It's a big lamination. There's 15 layers of fiberglass going on each side, and so it's going to take a lot of epoxy and a lot of time, but it'll be very satisfying to get it done. So I'm just getting this messy with thickened epoxy, filling in all the little spots and making it really sticky for the fiberglass to go up. Doing any coving, like fillets in here for the fiberglass to lay over really smoothly. Now we got a lot of comments last week about asking why we don't through bolt these chain plates to the hull. We just glued them on. We have been working very closely with Evan, the naval architect, to get these chain plates designed and make them as bomb-proof as possible. I wouldn't have decided to build carbon chain plates unless I had help. This is a more important part of the boat that a professional needs to design. So Evan's going to help us understand why through bolting isn't the right way to do this.
the reason we're doing it is it offers a very secure way of sticking it on because we have an enormous glue area. Okay, we could use a whole bunch of little bolts like this all the way down, and that it really isn't done with carbon chain plates. It's still done with metal chain plates. So we have the choice of bolts, about this size, maybe a little bigger, that are quite strong. But the glue area here is enormous compared to the cross section of all these little bolts. Even if the glue isn't as strong, it's still more than strong enough. And it has the advantage of no stress concentrations. Every time you drill a little hole, in your metal chain plate, you have this little stress concentration, and where it bolts to a fiberglass hull, you got a stress concentration. This way, the stress is nicely distributed all the way along. It's very fatigue resistant too. It's really the only way carbon chain plates are ever bonded to a hull is glued on. You never use mechanical fasteners for this sort of application.
And so some people talked about like the weak link, and so there is the connection where the shroud connects to the chain plate, then there's the connection where the chain plate connects to the boat, and then there's how strong the boat is itself.
Yes, and we have thought about all this, right? So the boat is solid fiberglass in between the two structural knees, the brackets that the chain plates are between. So we've removed all the foam. It's solid fiberglass there, so it's much stronger. The bond of this, we're absolutely convinced this is very strong compared to what I've designed other sort of boats at a higher level of racing boats, and they wouldn't be nearly as chunky as this one. And as well, we've overlaid it with many layers of fiberglass. So even if the glue completely didn't work and fell apart, the many layers of fiberglass that are bonded to the chain plate have considerable bonding area on the other side. They're bonded to the inside of the chain plate, and they wrap down and onto the hull. So you'd have to rip the entire length of this on both sides. You'd have to tear the fiberglass and have it shear. And we've got 15 layers there. It isn't going to happen. So it's a real belt and suspenders approach. If I was just doing this as a custom race boat, you'd glue it on and you'd walk away and you'd call it good. Because Matt is, when I designed this, I didn't know how good he was, so I was being very cautious and being very conservative about the glassing over top to accompany the gluing. And either one of them will hold the load. So now we've got twice as much areas, or twice as much ways to hold these things on.
And so, like, basically, this is like a cruiser's approach to carbon chain plates, where the carbon chain plates are heavier than they need to be, but they're absolutely bomb-proof, and there will be never any maintenance to do, ever.
Yeah, and we're not going to worry about them getting crevice corrosion at the deck, where you see that, 10 or 20-year-old chain plates. You see pitting of stainless chain plates all the time. They crack. I've seen more than masts come down because of that than I care to imagine. It's a common problem with stainless chain plates. You're not going to have deck leaks because it's all sealed off. Like, deck leaks into plywood bulkheads is such a common problem that you see on production bolts that are a few years old. This is all laminated in place. It's sealed off of the deck. There's no deck leaks either.
So basically, we can be speeding across the Pacific Ocean,
And not have to
full
worry about it.
sail,
Yeah.
heeled over, and there's no way our mast is coming down.
Yeah, it's not something you'll ever have to worry about, right? You can worry about the top of the mast breaking or something like that, but not these things.
Okay, I like that.
Me too.
So yes, we have no concerns about the strength of the chain plates. But the lamination was not going as well as I'd hoped. When we laminated to this area before the chain plates were here, it was a lot easier because it was a flat surface, but now with the chain plates glued on, there are many more edges and surfaces to work around, and the wet, heavy fiberglass was having a hard time sticking. I try to visualize how these laminations are going to go before diving in, and sometimes I'm totally wrong and the lamination goes very differently. It's hard to watch, but we think it's important to show the failures with the successes.
I think it's too many. So we got the starboard side done, or half done, this morning. It was really difficult getting the big pieces of fiberglass up into, especially up against the overhead, against the deck, and around the chain plates. We were trying to put 3 layers on at a time, and it was just so heavy, so awkward, and it was taking a really long time, so we only got half of it done. There's 15 layers go on, we put 7 on. So this time what we're going to do is, for this port side, we're going to cut each layer in half, top to bottom. We're going to put them up in halves, and we're going to put them up dry. So one at a time, and use the paint roller to roll them out. I don't know if this is going to work better. I hope it does. The biggest problem I foresee is that we'll use more epoxy. The layers will get heavier, but I still anticipate that we'll only get about halfway done before we put the bag on. Obviously, I don't want it to start curing before we finish rolling it out and everything. So, see how it goes. It's working a lot better putting it up dry. It takes a little bit more time, but it's sticking really nicely, which is nice.
I forgot how many times I've shown epoxy being dumped on the stove. That's what I was just wondering.
Not enough. Not enough times.
It's still so captivating.
I don't know, viewers. Is it captivating? Were there any signs when Matt was a kid about that he'd be a builder?
A builder. I would say that Matt was incredibly curious and loved to see how things worked, and he was great at taking things apart, but not so good at building them back together.
The other day we got, there's 15 layers that have to go on top of fiberglass that has to go on top of the chain plates. We're putting 12-ounce biax on top of them. And we did 7 layers last time. And so we have 8 more layers to go today. And that's because it's getting hot out, and so I can't risk putting too much on, and then it's getting hot out, and this is taking a long time, and so we can't risk it's starting to cure before I put the vacuum bag on. And so we're starting really early this morning in the hopes that it's staying cool enough that I can have enough time to get all the layers on. So yeah, we're trying to get these done, get the rest of the layers on today, and then we'll be done with the inside here.
Do you find fiberglassing like meditative?
In cases like this, I'm kind of in a rush to get through it because it's warm and I don't want it to start curing before I put the bag on and all this stuff. So I'm concentrating pretty hard to get it to go fast. I don't know if meditative is the right word.
All right, so these are done. Obviously, the only thing I have left to do is paint them, just like the rest of the boat. But otherwise, there's nothing else I have to do in here. Feels pretty good to have these checked off the list. On the deck, where the chain plates come out of the deck, I have to laminate over them, but that is mostly just for waterproofing, sun protection, and to get ready to paint. So it's a pretty easy project up there. All right, so the last thing to do on these is to put primer on the deck side of the chain plates, and this is mostly just to protect them from the sun. It's also for when we do start fairing and everything. This primer that we're using is a tie coat, so it ties the fairing to the boat basically. And so what we're using is Holgard Extra. It's by All Grip. This is what Dave sent over. We'll be priming pretty much the entire boat with this stuff.
It looks so good. It looks like it was always meant to be part of the boat. Must be so satisfying to tick off these huge projects.
This is definitely a big one. Pretty happy with how it turned out.
Is the inspector licking the chain plate? I guess we shouldn't question her methods.
You guys had a lot of really great ideas for what to do with this rubbish chain plate that we have. Some people suggested that we cut it up into tillers, make a swing out of it, auction it off as part of a fundraiser for the project. My favorite idea is to load test it, figure out what the braking strength of it truly is. You know, in theory, the math says that it should brake at 200,000 pounds. So Evan was here this past weekend, and he had a really great idea for how we can use this in part of the boat. So if you have any guesses as to what that might be, leave them in the comments. We'll see you next week. Thank you again so much to all the Patreons. We, again, could never do this project without your help. So we have a few more to thank this week. First, thank you to Tucker and Sarah. Tucker grew up sailing on the East Coast and in the Atlantic. And he and Sarah used to have a compact, but now they bought themselves a Beneteau 367. They cruise the Chesapeake Bay. And Tucker's also getting into rigging and splicing projects. So thank you again very much to Tucker and Sarah. Also thank you to Michael. Michael is from Minnesota, and he grew up sailing on in the Midwest, on the lakes in the Midwest. His dad had a Choi Lee Ketch. It was a really gorgeous boat, so they sailed that, and they had a Ranger 33 that he grew up sailing. He took a long hiatus, but is now getting back into it. He's building his family these kayaks, which are really gorgeous. And so that's how he's getting himself back into boating. Thank you to Ash, originally a Kiwi, but now lives in the mountains in BC as a skier. He grew up sailing lasers and has convinced his wife that they're gonna go cruising down the road. But for now, he's getting his kicks by building this really gorgeous cedar strip canoe. If you're interested in joining our Patreon community, you can find us at the Duracell Project on patreon.com.